My pleasure to be back up here on stage, but also my pleasure to not be alone on the stage this time. Joined here by Michael Zimmerman from BNY Mellon. Michael, to kick us off, would you like to just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your role, where you sit in the organization, and kind of what you're focusing on?
Yep. So my name is Michael Zimmerman. I'm the Chief Data Officer for Wealth Management at BNY Mellon. I joined BNY Mellon about 4 years ago. Came into an environment, was not hired to work on data. We built a data team. A handful of them are sitting right here, so happy to have them with us. And we've been on a journey of just trying to help address data governance as well as analytics and bring more AI capabilities to our business even before the hype started this year.
Yeah, exactly. So out there leading the charge before it was a thing. So the focus of our talk, we've got about 15 minutes up here to share some of your experience, but really we're focusing on the return on AI, how you've been thinking about that as an organization, how you've been operationalizing that as an organization. So maybe to kick us off, can you tell us where you at on your journey in terms of tracking ROI on your AI investments?
Yeah, I was joking around with someone earlier that I always tell everyone we're on a 5-year journey. I just haven't decided when I'm going to start the clock. We're 3 years into it, and eventually we're gonna start the clock. But in terms of where we are as an organization, we're fortunate to have a CEO who's very data and AI forward. He is pushing everyone across the organization, and it's been great because you have this top-down support and the expectation that everyone is delivering bottoms-up use cases. So we've spent a lot of time going through and analyzing this, and we've built a lot of governance around it that allows us to run through different capabilities. And I think now we have a very good model in place, and we're going to start moving more models into production this year, and then we'll start to really see like what is the return that we're getting. But like everyone else, the current focus is convenience. Like, what can we do to make someone's life better? What can we do to give someone else a little bit of capacity? And that's really what we're seeing.
Well, I like that you brought up governance, right? Because we've spoken a lot about governance on stage today, and often we're speaking about governance in terms of compliance, regulatory compliance, and so on, which is, of course, a huge part of that story. But here you're mentioning governance in terms of more business alignment, in terms of ROI. Is that how you see part of governance, at least, at BNY Mellon?
Yeah, absolutely. So while our CEO is very forward data, our CFO is very, I'm not giving anyone a blank check and I'm not going to believe it until I see a return. So you have this yin and yang support, which is great. And really for us, I agree with that. Even with our own team, one of the biggest things that I constantly say is if we don't have a client on the other end, why are we doing it? We can spend a portion of our capacity on benefiting future us to serve future clients, but we cannot operate in a bubble and put our heads down and not make certain that it's not getting back in the hands of someone who's talking to a client or something that may actually ultimately benefit a client or our bottom line.
So you mentioned a couple of roles. There are a couple of executives roles, CEO, CFO. I guess they're in alphabetical order, but they have different functions. Can you tell us both how you're reporting out ROI to whom? And also, can you talk about how you get that alignment within the different stakeholders in the organization about what even those success metrics should be? Because I can imagine, right, that between the CEO, the CFO, add in all the other CXOs, plus everybody else in the organization, there's probably different interests, different motivations, different priorities. How do you do that alignment?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the biggest things we did foundationally when we set up the team. We created our service catalog, and within the service catalog, we had this pillar that we termed non-negotiable. There are things that we have to do to stay in business. There are things that we have to do in order to be able to innovate, in order to be able to support our clients. And when we start talking about ROI, there's no question. No one's giving us a hard time. And then from there, how do we take that pillar and move it into BI, into more advanced analytics, into different types of program management to be able to start delivering more value? And then when you get into that component of delivering value, it doesn't matter if I think it's successful. It actually also doesn't matter if the project's successful. Like we just heard probably multiple times today, many projects are not successful. So the most critical component of evidencing value and getting a return on AI is having deep connections to your stakeholders. Like for us, like I'm at the table with everyone every single day. I was talking to Ren earlier today, and I was just highlighting like the connection that we have with our CIO, with our head of banking, with these different teams. They want us involved in projects. There's no justification of why does our team exist or why are we making this investment. We know the only path forward to be successful is to partner together.
Can you actually go a little deeper on that, talking about some of those relationships, how you've built those, and then ultimately how that gets supported or reinforced by some of the metrics? And I know we've got some slides with some of the metrics, but maybe before we get to that, can you just talk a little bit more about the importance of those relationships, how they get established and maintained?
Yeah, so another fun joke that we have is I've given 50% of individuals' time on my team to about 100 people. So obviously we can never do that, but it's really just letting them know whenever there's anything there that we're there to support them. So being in the CDO role, we have the governance piece, which makes certain we have to make certain we're also dealing with policy compliance, we're dealing with regulatory compliance, and those are very sticky things that people look for help and support for. So we're helping them with these things that they must or have to do, and that really just creates a very tight bond where our teams and our organization are moving in conjunction towards the path forward, and then we're finding ways to reuse that to actually deliver value, to help get information into the hands of an actual business user, to help speed up decision making, to underpin different strategies that the firm wants to take on.
So that's very clear, but maybe let's get into the numbers now, and especially when you're thinking about, the value of software, the value of a platform. These are, of course, technologies that support multiple use cases. They support multiple questions. So, the marginal value, the marginal cost, even to any one of them, is very low. But of course, the fixed cost is non-negligible. So how do you go about quantifying that and reporting that out? And if you want, I can bring up the slide with some of those numbers.
Yes, okay. You can bring it up. I think the biggest thing is I never put the cost of my team on a slide. Someone else may have done it, but I've never, ever put a number associated with how much money we spend unless someone brings it up in front of us. But I think one of the things we have to realize is that we're all on a data team. We all work with people who are highly innovative and very creative. And one of the biggest things that we talk about regularly is a concept of humble bragging. And I hope my team doesn't listen here, but every time they bring me a metric that's the success for what they did, I never accept it the first time because they've thought about it a little bit, but if you just push people a little bit harder, they'll come back with some other view that you hadn't thought of. And these are all things that they've created, and I particularly like the box on the lower left-hand side of the slide. This is evidencing value that we're delivering because we're building out a hub and spoke model, and we're trying to amplify the ability for people to take information, do things faster, and be self-service. And this allows them to be in the moment, responding to a question without the need for us. We can bring data to them through the tool. And I think in terms of costs, for me, like less is more. I don't want to be on 20 different applications. I don't want to have all the greatest things that are out there today because tomorrow they're not going to be around. I want a tool that's able to deliver a lot of capability at a reasonable price and be able to really allow us to push things out to other users and get support from a spoke perspective.
Excellent. And I think that that hub and spoke model, yeah, that's a big part of what I understand to be your approach to not only working, but of course, rolling up some of those success metrics. Do you want to talk more about the hub and spoke model?
Yeah, so everyone uses hub and spoke models, but it's a pretty simple premise that we're established on is we're in meetings all day long. We're constantly talking to our stakeholders, and no matter whether we're in meetings for 8, 10, or 12 hours a day, there's dozens of other people who are having meetings and conversations that we can never be a part of. So if our head of banking has an idea or something that they want to do, the best thing that we can do is get the information in the hand of that person. We will train them on the tool. We will train them on the data. We will bring them whatever other capabilities they want. And I think you can find different success in here. So for example, with the marketing collaboration, We started out very early on partnering with our marketing team because we were obviously chasing, like, how can we justify our team and help with revenue generation and self-fund ourselves in our first 2 years of being here, in addition to all the other governance piece. And the reality is we don't make money. We're a data office. We enable things to happen, and it really comes down to the client-facing teams to deliver value, to make those pitches, to bring in more money. But we can do things that amplify results, and it doesn't have to be like groundbreaking transformational items. Like, we found a way to segment our client data a little bit differently using a basic next best product recommender, like a random forest type model, that allowed them to go out and get funding to do this at a scale that we've never done before. And the hope is that it's going to bring in more revenue over the course of this year and the year after. But again, it's no justification of our existence. It's no justification in the investment in the platform. It's a very basic capability that we should have, and we just help people amplify the results that they would otherwise be getting.
And I think we have the next slide is a picture of that hub and spoke. Is there anything you want to talk through there? Because we heard about how you're collaborating so successfully with, for example, the marketing department, but obviously, you're connected throughout the business.
Yeah. So you won't see our marketing department in here because we do everything for them. So we're their hub and spoke. But this is really, like, we've been on this journey for a very short time, and you can already see all the different capabilities of what this tool brings to us. And my favorite thing about this is that I look at it and I see all these individuals and all these different groups that used to get Excel files or ad hoc reports. They'd go to the technology team, they'd hit up our data engineers and ask them to download stuff and send it to them. Here, everyone's working off the same data sets. All of these projects, they're collaborating. We're able to reuse things. We have about 3 more partners that are going to come into this space next year. And I think that this really just helps magnify the things that you're able to accomplish by bringing people into that same type of environment that we've been able to set up with this tool.
Well, so it sounds like you've been pretty successful with a team which is, relatively modest in size. Again, you don't want to put the cost of that team up on any slides, but shout out to the team. They're doing good work. Also, they know a little bit more about your management style and why they keep getting turned down with their first shot. Yeah. But what's next? Is it further collaboration within the organization? Is it growing the team? And also, with the advent of generative AI, is that now part of the strategy? Is that changing the way that you work with some of these other teams?
Yeah, it's definitely part of our strategy. So everyone's at a different level of maturity. So for us, we started hiring our first few people 3 years ago in this space. Most of the team has been around for less than 18 months. And we're starting to move slowly. The first thing is getting a handle on all of our data, being able to join it up, starting to distribute it to more users. And now our team is upskilling themselves. There's multiple people going back to school to get additional degrees. We're looking to move this onto an even more modern platform. Jed was joking around, but yes, we're still on Hadoop. We're trying to get into a cloud environment as fast as possible, and hopefully that happens this quarter. And then now you take the uplifted stack, you take the uplifted trained individuals, and then you know that they already understand this space. They've worked in it now, they understand the data, they understand the product, they understand the teams. And for us, it's now the next step will be bringing more AI to this in a very governed and controlled manner. But.
Of course. That's incredible. We've just got 1 minute left. Yeah. Are there any parting words, any advice that you want to share with everyone in the audience? Any good recommendations or pitfalls to avoid?
Yeah. I honestly just come back to that stakeholder engagement. It's a theme that came up a lot. It was a surprising theme that came up at the Gartner conference when we were about to have a conversation about this, and it was a theme that came up this morning that Ren was talking about. The connections that you make with your business, and I think Kelsey was just talking about it a few minutes ago. The connections you make with your business, the connections you make with your CIO, the connections you make with your second-line partners in risk and legal and compliance, those are the most critical pieces to your success. Dataiku does a great job of providing us with tremendous technology, but I could have all the technology in the world, and if we didn't have those relationships, we would not be at the table in every single conversation when there is a major data-related issue or when there's a major data-related project or someone wants to do something that is innovative. They wouldn't be asking us to come and sit around because without those relationships, it's really hard to have an impact.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. It all comes back to the human connection at the end of the day. Love it.